Hi, welcome to valuationpodcast.com, a podcast and video series about all things related to business and valuation. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I'm a valuation expert witness in St. Louis, Missouri. I have the pleasure of discussing pink collar crime, fraud, and embezzlement with Kelly Paxton, who is a private investigator and certified fraud examiner in Portland, Oregon, or I just learned, Bend, Oregon. One of the things that you said that I thought was super interesting is that you can go and sell the case. Like you can see the case and you can go talk to law enforcement about it being criminal as opposed to civil. But like, what else can you help as a certified fraud examiner with a business that has been embezzled? What else can you do? Because some of it could be covered by insurance, right? Some of it is relying upon police or something like that to do it. This is a lot of math and calculations and digging and putting it together. And you might have to testify, right?
Okay. Well, this is like, knock on wood. I've only testified in grand jury, and I had an attorney. We worked a case for 3 years, and like a year into it, he's like, well, you've testified, haven't you? And I'm like, nope. He's like, you were given to me as an expert. And I'm like, yep. And I said, this case won't go to trial. And he goes, you don't know that. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And he's like, no, you don't. He was really upset. And I'm like, it's not going to go to trial. And I said, I always work a case like it's going to go to trial, but it hasn't. And so sure enough, 3 weeks before we were supposed to go to trial, what happens? It settles. The cases are generally, if law enforcement doesn't overreach, and sometimes law enforcement does overreach. Mm-hmm. I've done prosecution and I've done criminal defense, and I love criminal defense work. I love it all day long because there is nothing more important than keeping an innocent person from being prosecuted. And it happens. It truly happens. So I have this great story. I have a friend, she and her husband are uber successful, multimillionaires. He meets me. I grew up with her. He meets me. And he finds out what I do, and he's like, I'll never have to hire you. And I'm like, oh, really?
Famous last words.
Yeah, exactly. So he's like, I pay well, I hire really good people, and I'm scary. He's not Tony Soprano scary, but he's scary. And I said, yeah, whatever. Fast forward 18 months later, guess who calls? It's the wife saying he's on the phone. He's like, 9:00, my office tomorrow morning. So I get there and lawyers are there. I get there. He's a very public person. And it was a man, but he committed a pink collar crime because he had a raging gambling problem. The client was very, public. And he wanted this guy to be hung in the town square. Like he's like, this is where the fraud, what comes in. I said, Mr. X, Mr. Master of the Universe, settle down. If this gets in the newspaper, what is going to happen to your reputation? I said, we will get it prosecuted. We will get him arrested, but it's going to be quiet because the type of business he was in, his sort of colleagues and his investors would think less of him that this happened. Now, it was a one-off. It was kind of a crazy business deal that the guy found, this closed or it was an open bank account that was supposed to be closed. So it really was a one-off, but it came out, in the newspaper, like 18 months later in an LLC that now, if you're a journalist, you could track it back, but it was very important. He wanted absolute justice to happen, and he got the justice. But I said, you have to be careful about your name being attached to this. And he's like one of my biggest proponents because it would have caused a lot of PR for him, mm-hmm. a lot of PR. And so that's where the fraud therapist and the selling of the case. What if you're a nonprofit and you get ripped off? I mean, I had a nonprofit who saw my presentation, realized that they were getting ripped off, and their lawyer said not to go to law enforcement. I was enraged because people are going to find out. And so there are ways to soften it or to be very strategic about the investigation.
Oh, well, I think that it's a big deal because if you become really public about somebody stealing from you, they kind of look at you and say, well, what did you do? Like, why didn't you prevent this from happening? And then it's like, it's the like the customers kind of think it's their money, right? Like, you're losing my money. How can I trust that you're paying attention? So it really does. But you have that revenge, like somebody took something from me, and I want revenge, or I want them to pay, like I want them to be hurt like I'm hurt by it. But that doesn't always really equate to being helpful for your business.